runs Station 4 at Lockheed Martin in Fort Worth, Texas. The future of aerial combat is preparing for flight. This is the F-35A, a variant of the F-35 Lightning II, arguably the most extreme fighter jet in the world. With a fully loaded weight capacity of 68,000 pounds and a 35-foot wingspan, the F-35A is capable of hitting a maximum cruising speed of Mach 1.6. That's fast enough to zip from LA to New York in about 2 hours. The muscle that powers this supersonic jet is the largest single turbofan ever put in a fighter. The Pratt & Whitney F135 engine.
Back here at the aft end of the airplane, we have the propulsion system. It's a single-engine aircraft, one of the largest engines in a tactical fighter. This particular engine has 40,000 pounds of thrust. Essentially, in a 50,000-pound class aircraft, it's going to be a pretty snappy performer.
To equal the force of the F-135, you'd need the combined power of 6 top-fuel dragsters at 7,000 horsepower each, or the teamwork of 80 big rigs with 500 horsepower engines. The Lightning II also brings Ferrari-like finesse to its afterburner, essentially a system that adds raw fuel to the exhaust for a boost of explosive thrust.
The afterburner, unlike previous engines where they stage through various levels of thrust, is one smooth acceleration. It's just an incredible amount of thrust. It's an incredible rush to put it in the upper left-hand corner and pull back on the stick and let it go.
The F-135 engine delivers the brawn, but it's the brains that set this warbird apart. Its onboard computer processor can run more than 1 trillion operations per second.
Key feature of the F-35 Lightning II is the integrated sensor suite. Starts up front here. An active electronically steered array radar, able to simultaneously track air-to-air and air-to-ground threats and engage them. As we move back a little bit, in this bay here will be an electro-optical sensor, able to track and engage targets on the ground as well as in the air using optical means rather than radar. Very, very good for stealth.
Prior to flight, every F-35A test pilot puts in long hours on the simulator, learning how to master the computer-integrated cockpit.
Some of the things that will really blow you away, inside the cockpit, it's almost like having a Windows environment. The cockpit has an 8 by 20 inch panoramic cockpit display, all AMLCD just like your TV at home, touch screen.
Despite the user-friendly interface, most pilots prefer to keep their eyes on the actual target. For this reason, the F-35A comes with a helmet that would satisfy the pickiest Star Wars fighter pilot. This is the HMD, or helmet-mounted display. When the visor is lowered, the pilot sees the skies, as 2 electro-optical lenses project graphics directly onto the visor. Flight data and targeting information are literally in your face.
No light, bad weather, he can see what others can't, which is very compelling if you're fighting in bad weather or at night. You can fight and see, and the others cannot.
The F-35A masterfully integrates the extreme features that define the modern fighter. Features pioneered by supersonic jets of the past. Case in point, the Lightning II's modified delta wing. It increases maneuverability because its leading edge remains behind the shockwave generated by the nose at supersonic speeds. It was an American fighter that pioneered another feature that's crucial to the Lightning II's extreme performance. Its massive turbofan engine. Until the early 1960s, fighters came equipped with turbojet engines. Turbojets inject fuel to ignite compressed air. The resulting combustion drives a turbine that produces thrust. The F-111 Aardvark, unveiled in 1964, was the first fighter with a turbofan engine. A design incorporating an external fan, similar to a propeller, that provides added thrust with airflow that bypasses the jet engine, thus increasing power and fuel efficiency. The thrust of the F-111's two turbofans topped 50,000 pounds, 3 times the power of the first supersonic fighter, the F-100 Super Sabre. As sheer power like this helps the F-35A dominate the skies, its low observable profile, or stealth, helps hide it from enemy radar. The first interceptor jet with extreme stealth capabilities was the YF-12, first flown in 1962. It evolved from the same program that spawned the SR-71 Blackbird spy plane. Each plane's wings featured surface angles designed to absorb and reflect radar, which significantly reduced their radar signatures. The Lightning II's classified stealth design is reputed to reduce its signature to the size of a golf ball. But stealth design isn't the only asset contained in the Lightning II's airframe. It's also compact, lightweight, and nimble. Aerodynamic pluses pioneered in 1976 by the F-16 Fighting Falcon. The Falcon's power, combined with its sleek, small design, changed the physics of aerial combat, enabling pilots to turn more rapidly inside an opponent and lock missiles. The Falcon was the first fighter rated at sustained forces 9 times the force of gravity, or 9 Gs, the threshold at which all but the most seasoned pilots would black out. Most jet fighters before the F-16 were rated at only 6 Gs. At 9 Gs, a 200-pound pilot weighs the equivalent of 1,800 pounds.
The attributes of the F-16 were simply undeniable. And over a period of time, over 4,000 F-16s were built, and in fact, the type is still in production.
A newer jet fighter that began production in 2003, the F-22 Raptor, featured the final element that became an integral part of the Lightning II. The Raptor came equipped with advanced integrated avionics, complex computer software that runs flight controls, weapons, and other onboard systems, freeing the pilot to concentrate on the battle.
The combination of the F-22 and the F-35 together can tear down the walls of an opponent, open up the sky above them, and then make that opponent more vulnerable to conventional attacks.
America's future fighter, the F-35 Lightning II, represents the culmination of 70-plus years of fighter trial and error. In fact, the F-35 is 3 fighters in one. It was originally called the Joint Strike Fighter because it was designed to jointly serve 3 branches of the military. Lockheed Martin will deliver the conventional F-35A to the Air Force. The F-35B is a short takeoff and vertical landing fighter designed for the Marine Corps, first demonstrated as the X-35B prototype. The F-35C is an aircraft carrier launch version for the U.S. Navy.
We built 3 variants of this airplane, basically off the same airplane, kind of like the way car industry builds a family of SUVs and pickup trucks off the same chassis.
Lockheed Martin's Fort Worth production facility is responsible for crafting all F-35 wings and forward fuselages. The crucial component on the fuselage of the F-35B is the vertical lift fan.
And the key to this 5th generation airplane is just above my head, and what this is the lift fan area. These are the vanes that direct the airflow. There's 19,000 pounds of thrust that will come out of this, 19,000 pounds in the rear. We have roll posts in the wing. They'll get about 1,900 pounds thrust each, and that allows this to come in for the vertical landing, also the short takeoff.
It has doors on top that open up like an old 55 Chevy hood. The lift fan engages, so at 250 knots, the pilot comes in, engages the lift fan, opens the doors, the plane begins to slow down, transitions from airborne, wingborne flight to jetborne flight, and can almost, land like a helicopter.
The The F-35 is a group effort, with the United States joining 8 foreign nation partners. The various F-35 versions will have a commonality of parts, making the airframe far less expensive to build and fly than the F-22 Raptor. The F-35 represents the largest aerospace defense program in history. But some say it could be the fighter pilot's last ride.
I would propose to this program, as we sit here today, that the F-35 potentially represents the last manned fighter. If it's not the end of the road for the manned fighter, it's getting awfully darn close.